One of the most striking elements of Pope Francis's papacy was his deep affection for the life and writings of Francis of Assisi. Francis of Assisi was a 13th century Italian saint who felt a deeply personal call to abandon all his worldly belongings and live a life of poverty. In doing so, he sought to follow the example of Jesus and his earliest disciples as described in the Gospels. Over time, St. Francis would become one of the most venerated figures within the Catholic Church and was canonised in 1228, only 2 years after his death. In 2013, the Pope surprised many by taking the name Francis, the first unique name for a Pope in over a millennium. Many thought that he did so in honour of the Jesuit saint Francis Xavier, but the Pope later clarified that he had chosen the name out of a love for the Franciscan saint. Some people want to know why I wish to be called Francis. For me, Francis of Assisi is the man of poverty, the man of peace, the man who loves and protects creation. This really set the tone for his entire 12 years as Pope. Everything that people will remember him for: his care of the poor and the marginalised, his highlighting of the plight of migrants, and his repeated pleas to end warfare and the tragedy of civilian casualties, can all be seen as inspired by Franciscan values. We saw this right from the start. When he appeared on the balcony of St. Peter's for the first time as Pope, he wore simple white, rather than the more elaborate traditional garments we had seen at the election of Benedict XVI in 2005. It was in his important teachings, published as encyclicals, that Pope Francis drew most heavily on the spirit of St. Francis. In 2014, he published Laudato Si, a work that argued for greater care for the environment and the necessity of facing the climate crisis. In doing so, he took inspiration from St. Francis's famous Canticle of the Creatures, in which the saint invited all of creation to praise its creator. In 2020, when the Pope published another encyclical, Fratelli Tutti, he once again argued that St. Francis was the perfect example to imitate, describing how he sowed the seeds of peace and walked alongside the poor. His spiritual testament, published after his death on the 21st of April 2025, is the final expression of a pontificate inspired by St. Francis. Rather than being buried at St. Peter's Basilica, Pope Francis will instead be buried at the Basilica of St. Mary Major. According to his wishes, his tomb will be simple, without particular ornamentation, bearing only the inscription Franciscus. Such a final act is an embodiment of the Franciscan values that have characterized his papacy.